I never thought a hospital hallway would be the place where my life split cleanly in two. But that's exactly what happened. One minute, I was gripping the wall, breathing through contractions, trying not to scream because I didn't want to scare the other patients. The next minute, I was watching my husband walk away from me like I was an unpaid bill he'd decided to ignore. You know that moment when something inside you just goes quiet, like your brain says, "Oh, this is who you really are." Yeah, that moment. That was the beginning of everything. My name is Ava Collins, or at least that's the name my husband knew. I was 8 months pregnant, standing in St. Jude Memorial, and my water had broken in the parking lot. I was scared, exhausted, and in pain that felt like my body was tearing itself apart from the inside. And there was Ethan, my husband of 5 years, standing a few steps away with his arm wrapped around another woman, a nurse. Her name was Lauren. She worked there. She knew exactly what was happening, and she didn't even flinch. She just leaned into him like she belonged there. When the admissions clerk asked for insurance information, Ethan didn't even look at me. He said loud enough for half the hallway to hear, "I'm not paying for this. She can handle it herself." No hesitation, no shame, just cold certainty. I remember the clerk freezing her fingers, hovering over the keyboard like her brain needed a second to catch up with what her ears had just heard. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to vanish into the floor and take my humiliation with me. I asked him quietly at first, then louder when another contraction hit Ethan. "Please, the baby's coming. I need you." He laughed. Not a nervous laugh. Not an awkward one. A real laugh like I'd just told a bad joke. He told me Lauren had been more supportive in a few months than I'd been our entire marriage. Said I was always tired, always stressed, always too much. He said I drained him. Lauren rubbed his arm while he said it, nodding like this was all completely reasonable. That's when something shifted. Not rage, not tears, just clarity. Because 6 weeks earlier, I already knew about the affair. I had the photos, the messages, the hotel receipts. I'd known for a while, actually. I just hadn't said anything. I wanted to see how far he'd go. Turns out, the answer was all the way. What Ethan didn't know was that Ava Collins wasn't my real name. I was born Ava Monroe. My grandfather built one of the largest private medical logistics companies in the country. When he passed a year and a half before that night, he left me everything. Billions, hospitals, software systems, financial holdings, all of it. And I never told my husband. I taught middle school. I drove an old car. I lived like a normal person because I wanted a normal marriage. I wanted to know if the man who said he loved me would still love me if money wasn't part of the equation. Standing in that hallway abandoned and shaking, I got my answer. Another contraction bent me in half, and a nurse rushed over, helping me into a wheelchair. Ethan didn't move. He didn't even look back when the automatic doors opened and cold air rushed in. He left with Lauren, their hands intertwined like they were the ones starting a new life instead of ending one. I pulled out my phone and sent one message to my attorney. Execute the acquisition. Effective immediately. Labor is a strange thing. It strips you down to instinct and truth. By the time I was in the delivery room, breathing through the pain, I wasn't crying anymore. I wasn't begging. I was done. The nurse with me, an older woman named Denise, tried to be gentle. She said, "Sometimes men panic. They come back." I looked at her and said, "He's not coming back, and I don't want him to." Then my mother-in-law showed up, Gloria. Perfect hair, expensive coat, the kind of woman who smiles with her mouth but not her eyes. She took one look around the room, noticed Ethan wasn't there, and smirked. She called me pathetic, said I'd trapped her son with a pregnancy, said if I'd been a better wife he wouldn't have needed to find comfort somewhere else. I let her talk. I memorized every word. Because people tell you exactly who they are when they think you're powerless. At 3:58 a.m., my daughter was born. Isla. Tiny. Loud. Perfect. When they placed her on my chest, everything else faded. The pain, the fear, the anger, all of it shrank in the presence of that tiny human who trusted me completely without knowing a single thing about the world she'd just entered. By sunrise, St. Jude Memorial had a new owner. Me. Lauren was terminated before her shift ended. Not out of spite, out of policy. Relationships with patient spouses tend to violate ethics standards. Her license was flagged for review. No dramatic scene, just consequences. Quiet ones, the kind that echo. Ethan started calling around 7 a.m., not asking about Isla, asking about Lauren. That was the moment I stopped wondering if I was doing the right thing. Gloria stormed back into my room later that morning demanding answers. My attorney explained them calmly, explained who I was, explained what I owned, explained what was about to happen to her heavily mortgaged house financed by one of my grandfather's banks. I watched her face drain of color, watched disbelief turn into panic. She said, if I had known. I stopped her. That's the problem. You shouldn't need to know. Ethan showed up at noon. Wrinkled clothes, red eyes, apologies spilling out of him like water from a broken pipe. He said he was scared, confused, influenced. He said we could fix it. Counseling. A fresh start. I told him to stop. I told him about the divorce papers, the prenup he'd signed without reading, the custody arrangement, supervised visits only, no access to my assets, no negotiation. He cried, asked why I'd tested him, said it wasn't fair. I told him love that only survives when it's convenient isn't love, it's a deal. And deals fall apart when the terms change. Years passed. Isla grew. I rebuilt hospitals, funded scholarships, fixed systems my grandfather used to complain about over dinner. I built a life that didn't revolve around proving anything to anyone. Ethan remarried, tried to adjust custody, still asked the wrong questions, still wanted shortcuts, still didn't quite understand that consequences don't expire just because time passes. I denied the changes, for my daughter. Sometimes people ask me if I regret it, if I wish I'd chosen mercy instead of consequences. The truth is, I don't see them as opposites anymore. Mercy without accountability just teaches people they can hurt you again. Consequences teach boundaries. They teach respect. I don't hate Ethan. I don't think about Lauren. I don't answer Gloria's calls. I wake up every morning next to a child who knows she's safe, loved, and never too much. That's the real win. So here's my question for you. Where do you draw the line between forgiveness and self-respect? When someone shows you who they are at your most vulnerable, do they deserve another chance? Or do they deserve the consequences of their choices? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think.